our next contestant, no, our next speaker, I'm so excited that she's here. And this is my friend Lori Zacaruk, and she comes from Canada, and she's a really well-known Avalanche educator, mostly for snowmobilers. She's been involved in training for snowmobilers since 1998. But, you know, the real reason that I wanted Lori to come down here is because she tells you exactly what she's thinking. She does. Maybe she has some filters, but I sure haven't seen them yet.
I don't always have filters.
She says she doesn't always have filters. Anyway, welcome, Lori.
All right. I just got to test a couple things here. So I just have to test something here because we're going to try to do a bit of an interactive presentation here. Can I get that? Just got to double check that it fits. That looks pretty good. And we'll bring that back. Okay. And so, so what we have going on here, hopefully I can get it up on the screen. Not yet. Patrick, comments? There we go. So, not sure why that doesn't want to start at the beginning. What I'll do, you can throw it, just minimize that. I don't know why this is not up there. I don't see anything on this screen either. Do you know why? Okay, I'm just going to start, I'll back it up. Maybe this will work. I'll just go back instead of trying to get to the beginning. So, what this talk is I have created a card game, and it's called the Avalanche Gamble, and the purpose of the card game is to use it with introductory Avalanche course students in order to get them to apply the concepts that they learned in their AST1 in their intro course. And so a little bit later in the presentation, I'm looking for 4 to 6 volunteers that might come up and play this game. It's very straightforward. It'll be straightforward. There's no risk to you because the audience will be the ones that will be analyzing the hands at the end. But it'll be like a poker game in the fact that you'll have a poker hand. You're looking for the safest hand. You'll have 60 seconds of fast go fish type activity where you can discard cards and try to build that hand, a better safe hand. And then at the end, we'll roll the dice and see if you make it home or not. So before I start, I'd like to learn a little bit about you. So hands up if the highest level of training you've taken is professional. So I'm just trying to get a read on the audience. So how many of you have taken professional Avalanche courses? Okay, so I'd say that's about like 35%. Okay, hands down. How about recreational? You've taken recreational training. Okay, probably about 65%. All right, cool. Or just under 60%. How many are taking your first Avalanche course this season? Sweet, very good. And is there any in the room that have no plans past this workshop? Okay, well, good. Looks like you're all in the game. That's awesome. And then I'd like to learn a little bit more about your activities, your backcountry activities. And you can hands up to all of these activities if it's your pastime. So how many of you ski? Okay, snowboard, snowmobile. Okay, how about rock or ice climbing? Okay, snowshoeing, hiking. How many of you are involved in industry, so snow sports industry, so a paid professional, whether it's ski patrol or guides? Okay, and then how about forest service or operations or highway? Anyone? Okay, cool. Alrighty, so the talks before me are all on the same page in the idea that there's a lot of uncertainty out there, and technically we're really all gamblers. But I don't think gambling or risk-taking is all bad, because if life was a guarantee, it would be pretty boring. And I think, and that's not, we need a few challenges and surprises along the way. But the problem in the backcountry is, of course, that the stakes are high. And that in the early years, a lot of us made it through with luck. There was no real strategy involved. And what we're trying to work towards with the education, the experiences, is to gain understand the patterns and to become more alert and aware of the choices, because it's not usually a go or no-go decision. Usually there's some options for us. So I went online and I just Googled life is a gamble, and a whole bunch of Pinterest posts came up. And I kind of like this one because it empowers you. I mean, it makes you recognize that you can be in the same situation as 100 other people, but you can create your own unique outcome from that. So I like that. I think that's empowering. This one I think fits with Dale's talk this morning. Don't let your emotions overpower your intelligence, with that idea of kind of staying humble and keeping it real. This one, I like it, but as long as when you learn that it's not too harsh. Because, of course, the wicked environment of the Avalanche world means that when we make mistakes, sometimes we have to live with some pretty tragic consequences. This one I didn't like very much. Sometimes you have to stop being scared and just go for it. Either it'll work out or it won't. Now, I agree with the sometimes you got to just go for it, but we still have to have strategy there, because if our response is, well, it could work or it might not, that kind of is like you're winging it, and not a good place to do that out in the backcountry. And this is the card that I kind of went with. And this is Kenny Rogers' country song, and it kind of fits with Jackson Hole here and fits with my card game, my poker game. But what I want to push towards is that we got to move ourselves away from reacting to a situation and put ourselves in the place of responding. And to me, you can only respond to a situation when you have a Rolodex full of ideas. And those ideas and experiences can come from formal things like training and courses and books and whatnot, but it comes from every YouTube video you watch, every story that you tell over a beer, and just your experience. And so if we can start small and work our way up and use mentors whenever possible, we can start to fill this Rolodex. And it's quite amazing how fast our minds are at taking a situation that we're involved in and trying to find some experience to give us a hand up in picking our response. So this is something, this is a funny little clip. Some of you may have seen it. Bruce Jameson shared it with us at a Canadian conference a couple years back. But it's a video clip from Premium Rush, and there's a bike courier. And you're going to see him cross this really busy intersection. And the traffic's flowing, and it's a super dangerous maneuver. But he's got the bad guys after him. So he runs through his mind all the things that could go wrong, and before he actually engages in his response. And this is kind of what I want to push towards, is that, if we think about it, we might be able to rule out some of the obvious, right? Now, I'm not saying that this is any safer option than the other two, but I like the process. I like the fact that he thought about it before he moved in. So here's what I did. And this is about the time, if I do need about 4 to 6 volunteers, so if you're interested in playing my poker game up here, we do have a couple of ramps off either side. And so if I could get 4 to 6 to consider coming up, that would be great. Now, here's my game. I've got 7 card decks, and each deck is different. So what I would like from the audience is if you can guess any of the factors that I might have chosen to put on these cards. Like, what do you think is a factor that you roll around in your mind when you're trying to decide your hazard level or what your risk you're taking on that day? Just shout it out. Stability. Okay, so we've got 2 cards here that relate to stability. So this one is related to the avalanche hazard that's actually forecast, and this one is related to the actual avalanche problem. So the hazard is the forecast rating, the danger rating, and then the problems are the observations that the forecasters are putting out there, or your own observations in the field. Okay? So guess what? You just became my volunteer. Anyway, okay, I need a couple more ideas up here. What are some other things you review? The weather. Okay, awesome. You're in the order. And so weather is, again, forecasted or something that you've viewed. What else? Yeah. Gear. Okay, so gear, I've lumped that into some travel habits. So it's going to tell us a little bit about the personality of the group. Awesome. Head on up. Okay, well, how about another one? So what else do you roll around your mind? Pardon me? Aspect. Okay, so with that one, I'm going to push that into terrain. First, I got to find my mouse. Anybody see where I put it? On the left. There we go. Okay, so we've got terrain and route selection there. And so next, what else do we look at? What's that? Skill level, okay, so we're gonna put that into people. And I've got another one here for people, because I think the bottom 3, group size, people, and habits, is gonna flesh out our groups a little bit. So if I could have some of you come on up, I do need a hand here. You're going to play this game. It's gonna go really quick. Basically, just if we can move the table up to the front, that'd be awesome. Thank you very much, Don. And so we'll get some volunteers to come around the table, and basically, you can each take one from every deck, okay? And you don't have to take from the top, you can take from the middle, and build yourselves a hand. And then look at your hand, and try to decide in your hand what you think the most hazardous cards are in that hand, because then in a moment, you're going to get 60 seconds to change out those cards. Now, before we start, I'm going to throw on the screen a little bit about these cards so that the audience has an idea what's going on. Okay, so first off, these guys are picking up some red cards. These red cards have a series of letters on them. Those letters are related to the Avalanche danger scale, so low, moderate, considerable, high, and extreme. Now, the cards that I've chosen, they have 3 letters per card, and the reason is in Canada, our forecasts tend to forecast for elevation. So the first letter is alpine, then tree line, and then below tree line. So when you're interpreting those cards, this would be an extreme, high, considerable card, maybe a card you'd like to get rid of. Here's another one, high, considerable, moderate. Now, I just want to, and I know that this is going to be review for a ton of you guys, but this is the Avalanche Danger Scale, and we use it in Canada as well as down here in the States. And I want to look at the column that says natural, or that says likelihood of avalanches, because this, I think, really helps me put into perspective what the forecasters are trying to tell me when I read a forecast. And I want to focus on this considerable. As noted in our previous speakers, considerable is a big deal. And if we take a look at that intersection, we see that natural avalanches are possible, human triggered are likely. And I think a lot of people tend to not take considerable with the, not treat it as it needs to be. It really needs to be that human triggered avalanches are likely. So that considerable card, want to make sure that everybody's playing it as the definition lies. So here's what some of their cards look like. This is the avalanche problem card. So this is either what's forecast or what you've experienced in your day. And you'll see that there's an observation, and then there's a terrain rose that tells us the aspect and orientation of the observation. So for example, this one is surface hoar buried 2 weeks ago, so it's a below tree line problem, and it tends to be preserved on the northwest through southeast aspects. So maybe it was a valley fog layer that got laid down, but maybe the sunny, windy slopes, it really got destroyed before the new snow came, and so it's really only a problem on the more sheltered aspects. And then this one here is the weather cards, and for example, 10 centimeters of snow over the last 48 hours with calm wind might be not such a big deal, but if we had 10 centimeters in a shorter time frame, or if we had bigger winds, then maybe that might factor into our decision making. So that might be a card that you can hold. And then the terrain cards, again, use that terrain rose to help us understand the aspect and the elevation band that the activity is taking place in. The group card, I really believe that our group size can be, can add risk or take risk away. And so a group of 10 might have lots of resources if things go wrong, but it might be a little bit harder to manage in the moment to keep us traveling with only one exposed at a time when crossing or traveling through our terrain. So it has its different pluses and minuses. The people dynamics card introduces a bit about the group and their personalities. And so a new rider on an underpowered machine might go 2 ways, right? It could make the group much safer or much lower risk if they manage the terrain that suits this new rider on the underpowered machine. But if they continue with the complex terrain that the majority of the group desires, they might end up putting that rider in a position that they get stuck, or they have a wreck, and now we're multiple people trying to help out a situation, and the whole group's risk exposure goes up. Travel habits, again, introduce a little bit more about the personality of the group. So, alrighty, so here's what's gonna end up. In the end, this group is gonna have 60 seconds to swap cards. And there's a little bit of strategy here. If you see a guy that's not, or a girl that's not trading cards, you know they think their hand is worth holding rather than picking, because they don't know what they're going to get out of the deck. And so you might want to steal their card. So anybody is fair game. If you have a green card, you want to change it out, you're welcome to change it out with the table, or you can change it out with any of the players. And you cannot hold your card. If somebody asks for it, you got to give it. And then if you don't like what you got, then get her done and fix it, right? That's your deal. You got 60 seconds to make this work. So the players have taken a look at their cards here. They've got probably a bit of a strategy on what they're going to dump and what they're going to hold. And I'm going to set a timer here, and you are going to get 60 seconds. So you can pick anywhere in the card, but you have to change a yellow for a yellow, a blue for a blue. In the end, you need one of every card. Ready, set, go. Okay, you got 60 seconds. Go, 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 go. Got to make some fast decisions out here. Some you can change, some you can't. Who's to say it's going to work out? You might have had the best hand, and with the last card, it blows it all. So while they're busy doing that, I'm just going to put this Excel form up on the board. And what it is this is how I'm going to record all of their cards. So I'm going to have completely, well, I guess I can get their names. I can try to put some names in here. Okay, what are we at? We got 20 seconds. It's good he doesn't have a mic on. Okay, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, so now we got the hands we got. It is what it is. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to just, 4 of you, I need 4, I can't fit any more than 4 up on the screen here. So if I can have you organize your cards in this order: red, purple, blue, green, yellow, orange, gray. And then that way you can read your numbers off to me, and I'll just key them into this here so the whole audience can see. So what's your name?
Casey.
Casey with a K? C-A-S-Y? Sure. Or sorry, you're going to be Casey right now. Okay, so what's your numbers? Red, starting with red. 12. Okay. Keep going. 28. So now blue. 13. 42. 37. 4. 28. Okay, do my numbers at the top, do my cards match yours now? Yes. Okay, and Tyler, I'll put yours in there. Okay, and your numbers?
14.
14.
11.
Yeah.
33.
33.
4.
4.
40.
40.
26.
26.
30.
And 30. So does that look like your hand?
Yeah.
Okay, and then who's next? Can I do your cards there, Bob? Okay, so Bob.
7.
And 7. Okay, 7.
27.
27.
26.
26.
45.
45.
43.
43.
13.
13.
33.
Okay, and that hand looks like yours? And you had some choice words, so maybe your hand will be fun. So is it Dallin? D-A-L-L, whoopsie. L-I-N? Okay. And then your numbers?
45.
Yeah.
23.
Okay.
35.
Yes. 30?
30.
30 again?
47.
Yep.
21.
21. Okay, does that look like your hand?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so let's take a look at this. All righty, so I got to get a little bit of a bigger picture view here. This is a huge screen. All right, so we got Casey here, considerable, moderate. Actually, you guys have had a chance to take a look at these. Let's just do a really quick, we're going to use rounds of applause to figure out what you guys think the most risky is and then the safest. And we're going to discuss after we vote. So you guys have all taken a look at those. And what you're going to do is you're going to clap for every one, because that way there's not an obvious difference between, oh, I'm not selecting this one, but I'm selecting this one. So you're going to clap for every one, but you're going to clap harder for the one that you're voting on, okay? So everyone's going to clap, but we're going to start with Casey's, and we're going to go Casey, Tyler, Bob, Dallin, and you're clapping right now for the most dangerous hand you see on the screen, and it'll be based on the loudest as to what we're going to call the most dangerous hand. So if you think Casey's hand is the most dangerous, clap. So we're clapping for everything. You're just clapping louder if you think it's the most dangerous. Okay, Tyler. Okay. All right. Bob? Bob? Okay. How about Dallin? Okay, good. All right. So now we're going to do the same thing, but on the safest hand. So if Casey's is the safest hand. Okay. Tyler? Okay. Bob? Okay. Dallin. All right. Okay. So now let's take a look at these and dissect them. And so if we take a look at Casey's hand, considerable, considerable, moderate, so we can have human-triggered avalanches, alpine tree line. No avalanche activity northwest through east slopes in the alpine, so that's a single observation that was either made or read about. It's snowing lightly, so not big changes to our spidey senses maybe. Boondocking low angle in the trees, east slopes below tree line. Okay, well, that's pretty good terrain, hey, especially with our avalanche hazard. Puts us in a pretty good location. Group of 4, pretty manageable. Group of friends, strong leader. Then they probably know one another, are communicating well. Climbing and crossing slopes one at a time. Oh my gosh, did you really get that hand? That's a pretty good hand, actually, hey? Okay, let's take a look at Tyler's. Considerable, considerable, low. So cornice forecasted in east slopes in the alpine. And so we have a considerable hazard that cornice may release. It's a forecasted, it's not a visual. So there's a difference, in my opinion, between an observed cornice failure and a forecasted one, right? Once it's observed, it's like, whoa, this is really happening. Forecasted, thank you very much. We're doing good, we're okay. The very cold temperatures, that's kind of interesting. Hook that up with a cornice. If we get super cold temperatures, we can get some brittle conditions. So maybe that's affecting our cornice. Concave slope west on a tree line, group of 5, age 40 to 49, rider stuck on the slope. Alrighty, so in that hand, what would you pull out as the most significant risk factor, the card that you would dump next if you had the opportunity? Yeah, I mean, the rider stuck on the slope, that's a pretty easy one, right? I mean, in our world, what we try to do is not get stuck, but it doesn't always happen that way, and then give our friends a time to get themselves down, and if they can't, then we might need to send in reinforcements, but we all know that just increases the exposure and the vulnerability of our whole crowd. I put in age groups there. In some cases, what do you think an age group of 40 to 49 is? Do you think that improves your risk score or reduces your risk score? How do you feel? Yeah. So, in some cases, we might get smarter with age. In some cases, maybe we're showing off for the young ones. I don't know. Whoops, sorry about that. Okay, so Bob's hand, let's take a look. Considerable low, low, so definitely got the best avalanche conditions of the day. No avalanche activity west through southeast alpine tree line, so that's a great card. Light wind. Groomer trails, logging roads, well, that's pretty low exposure unless there's some really high avalanche hazard above our heads, and in this case, we're not seeing that, so it's a pretty good route to have. Group of 6, pretty strong, in my opinion, as a group of snowmobilers. I like to see groups of 4 to 6. I think it gives us lots of resources if things go wrong, and but keeps our group small enough that we can keep track of everybody and that we can, travel one at a time and all be hopefully on the same page as far as our terrain choices. Familiar with the riding area? What's the good or bad thing about familiarity, though? Sometimes we let our guard down, and sometimes we run with this idea that, wow, I've never seen this hill slide, or I've been here a dozen times, where maybe we're not actually, in this case, we've got some pretty good avalanche conditions, but avalanche hazard, in my opinion, is not about what's average or what's usual. It's always about what's unusual. And sometimes people super familiar with the terrain will forget to be paying attention to those unusual conditions or unusual weather factors. Riders parked off to the side, awesome. Okay, Dallin, here we go. All right. High, considerable. So we've got the fact that natural avalanches are likely in the alpine, so something that's going to be above our heads all day. Snow cracking around sled tracks. Okay, so we're on some kind of a slabby setup that's got some unconsolidated or some less supportive snow underneath. Temperatures are cold. Following a creek below tree line, well, at least that's possibly, as long as it's not below some big paths, might be the piece of terrain that's going to save his butt. Group of 2, tiny, right? Well, something goes wrong. One guy gets in the creek. I think somebody's going to be hypothermic. And terrain choices adjusted to match conditions. Well, maybe that's what put them down in the creeks and just breaking out and having fun instead of being up on the slopes in those in the avalanche conditions as is. Often practice rescue scenarios. Nice save there at the end, right? Okay, so what we're going to do is, just as was mentioned before, you can have positive outcomes even when you're making not the best decisions. We got the dice roll, right? And so if I roll a 1, it's a size 1. Roll a 2, it's a size 2. Size 3, size 4. And then if I roll a 5 or a 6, whew, no avalanche. We got away with it. So here you go, Bob. Give it a roll. Just throw it on the floor. Okay, what do we got? What do we got? Oh, a size 3. Okay, so in some cases, that size 3 might have maybe caught those guys on the groomer trail or the logging roads, or maybe caught that guy down in the creek. And so even when we play our game, there is factors that are outside of our control. So the point of this game, like I say, was to introduce into intermediate avalanche classes in order to get people to try to do some critical thinking. And if we had more time, we would talk to this group in order to see what cards they dumped in order to get the hands that they had. Like, how did they make their decisions? Did they have 4 bad cards and they tried to dump all 4 bad cards, or did they just try to get a better terrain card, for example? Because a lot of times it's terrain that saves us and gives us a great day in whatever the conditions are. So anyway, hope you had some fun, and maybe it was a little bit of a different kind of style of presentation, but thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thanks so much, guys. Yep, we can just pull this. Oh, just.
We're going to go right to break. Let's take a 10-minute break and come right back for presentation on debriefing. Thanks, guys.
That's great. I love this. Did it work? Yeah.